System rewards borrowers, not savers. And when I figured that out, that is when I realized that I'd been doing it all wrong. You don't pay taxes on borrowed money. I'm sure you're wondering, yeah, well, how does that help me? Let me explain. When you buy the right things, you can rapidly grow your wealth. But first, you need to learn how to borrow like the wealthy do. The wealthy don't just go to the bank to take out a loan for a new car. And that is when I had discovered the loophole. Instead, the wealthy go to the bank to borrow money from their assets to buy things like stocks, real estate, and businesses, things that either go up in value, put money in their pocket every month, or both. Did you know that if your car is paid off, you can actually call the bank up and you can ask them for a loan against your car using it as collateral, meaning that if you don't pay the loan back, they'll just take your car just like they would if you had gone to the bank to get a loan to buy the car in the first place. And instead of getting a loan to buy a new vehicle, you get a loan that you can just use to buy whatever you want. During the 2022 bear market, that is exactly what I did. I borrowed $18,000 from my paid off car and I used that as collateral to go and buy stocks at a discount. And then after that, I actually used a loan against my stocks, using them as collateral to buy even more stocks. And this let me explode how fast I grew. That is called margin. That is what the wealthy do. The wealthy will take loans to buy assets so they can get them at an early age and get as many assets as they want. In the compound interest formula, there's two things that are very important: amount invested and time invested in the market. Of course, your interest that you earn matters as well. So they'll make sure to buy things that either go up in value pretty quickly and conservatively, and they never really take much risk. And then they will also buy things that put money in their pocket or protect their income. And what I mean by protect their income is I mean they're very tax efficient, maybe like real estate or businesses. They allow them to write things off. Now, I'm not saying that the wealthy don't buy liabilities. Of course they do, but they only do that once they're already rich. What I just described to you is how you see people get wealthy in just a few years. This is exactly what I did. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Here, you can see that in the last year, I'm up 30% on my stock portfolio. That has boasted me $125,000 in just gains. Back in 2022, you can see that I did exactly what I told you. I went and borrowed money from my paid off car, and then I also borrowed margin to quickly grow my portfolio to be $100,000. What you can actually do is once you borrow money and buy more stocks, since you own more stocks and your total value in here is higher, it allows you to then borrow even more money. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning of the journey at the beginning of 2022 when I had first put an influx of cash in here. So here you can see I borrowed $17,000 and I had bought all stocks with it. Just 2 days later, I had borrowed money from margin. And then just about a week later, I had borrowed money from margin again. And the green is when I'm borrowing money and red is when I start to pay it back. You can see I didn't start to pay anything back until October. But you can see just in short periods of time, I kept buying more and more. And let me take you back to show you exactly what this looks like in practice. So I'm sure you're wondering what I was buying. I was buying VGT at the time, and let me show you exactly what it looked like during those dates. Let me find my first buy, which appears to have been February 22nd, and then my last buy was March 29th. So from February 22nd, right around here, it had been down quite a bit already, and I had started to influx quite a bit. And then March 29th, I had mentioned in past videos that I blew my load too quickly. Here they faked me out and made it look like the market was recovering. And then I was tapped out of margin. So in October, when I really should have been leveraging up even more down here, I was out of money to borrow. So I do explain all of this in my ebook, Money Isn't Real. And in here, I really deep dive into the process of what I do and how I quickly built wealth in just a few years. This is the exact blueprint that I follow. Now, because you're my people, I'm going to share something with you. I'm going to give you some free game. This is what I call the money filtration system. And this is exactly how I grow my wealth. So I buy assets with money that's coming in. I typically keep my money My biggest anchor in my portfolio is VGT. What an anchor is it's something that's diversified that keeps you stable and allows you to use margin safely. Whereas if you were to buy an individual stock, it moves up and down so quickly that you might put yourself in a lot of risk. It could go to zero and it's just going to move up and down so quick that it could get you into trouble. So what I mean by that would be something like Tesla. Look how volatile it is, and something like this could maybe get you margin called pretty quickly. So you should have an ETF as an anchor. I'm not saying your anchor should be the same as my anchor. Some other great anchors might be SCHG, VUG. You could even use VOO as an anchor. It's just a little bit slow for my tastes. Though it does serve a purpose in my portfolio, I treat it a little bit more like a bond than I do as a growth tool. It does pay a little bit better for dividends and it does help me cover my monthly payment. Before I dive further into the money filtration system, let me show you the cost of margin. Here you can see that my new monthly payment is $542, and you can see that when you put something up as collateral, you get much more favorable interest rates than if you were to just go to the bank and you were to borrow money to use things. In the past, I've made some videos showing the power of interest-only loans. An interest-only loan is so powerful. In my opinion, it's one of the most powerful loan types. The reason is because you get such a low interest rate and you don't have to pay the principal. So you get to keep all that extra cash flow and you can pay off the loan much quicker than a principal and interest loan just due to how a principal and interest loan is amortized. Principal and interest loans, all of the interest is front loaded, meaning that you pay most of the interest up front and then over the loan you pay less and less of the interest and more of the principal. Let's look how much it would cost if I were to have borrowed to pay off my car. So in the past it cost maybe about $180, but now my payment would only be $142. And as you're paying down that loan, your payment is actually getting smaller because you owe less money. Very powerful stuff. Growth ETFs with margin is one of the fastest ways to blow up from zero up to around a $500,000 portfolio. I'm on my way up to the millions and I might have a new tip and trick that I might start to utilize to grow even faster, but I want to do more research before I publicly go out there and discuss what that is and before I start actually doing it. Like we just talked about, you would be using this money to buy an anchor, a powerful ETF to build a foundation. After that, you would then spend money on your credit cards. So imagine you have a lot less money in your bank. You would then spend your money on your credit card like you normally would if you're responsible and can pay it off every month in full. And then you borrow money from your assets to then pay off your credit card. The reason you do that is you get such a low interest rate. At the time I wrote this, it was 6.5%, and now it's 4.9%. Keep in mind it's a variable rate. So I have had 2%, and it's gone up to 7.25%. And that is why you have to be very careful with how much you leverage. You have to be able to handle maybe tripling your payment. You want to be very, very careful. I write all the rules that I follow in my ebook, Money Isn't Real, as well. Some of those rules might be that you don't want to over leverage, that you want to have some buffer. You want to make sure that you don't day trade, you don't buy individual stocks, and there's various different rules. Now, once you've paid back that money, the benefit of all of this is that you keep filtering it and you keep getting max ROI and you never sell your assets. This lets them compound forever. The benefit of this cannot be understated. Imagine that you are using your stocks to save for something and then you sell them. Well, you just triggered a capital gains tax. You just stopped the compounding. There's so many reasons that it's less practical to sell your stocks than it is to let them compound forever. This is the most powerful way to build wealth. This is what the wealthy do. They buy assets, they never sell them, they let them compound forever, and they use the money from those assets to then buy more assets. It's an infinite loop of you buying things that go up in value, and then borrowing to buy even more things that go up in value, and then borrowing to buy things that go up in value is just so powerful. And the faster you can do this at a young age, the better off you're going to be. From my perspective, it's best to do this in your early 20s, 30s, and early 40s. Once you get to be upper 40s, 50s, 60s, it becomes a little bit more dangerous because you don't have as much time to recover if the market goes down and it stays down for 10, 15 years. It still is a powerful tool, but you don't want to max out your leverage. You want to make sure that you're being safe. You want to make sure that you use this with caution. Make sure that you do a lot of research before you do this. It's even more important if you're older. Now, something that cannot be understated is the power of tracking things. At first, so I started this in 2022. At first, I didn't track anything. I grew up a saver and I just naturally always had higher income than expenses. So I didn't think that I needed to track anything. However, in 2023, I started to realize one, it's cool to see your progress. Two, the more assets you have and more money coming in and out you have, the more important it is to make sure that you know where everything is going. And it started out kind of simple like this. And I tracked my income and expenses for rentals, my income, and everything like that. And then over time, actually, here I wasn't even tracking my income. I just was tracking the income from rentals and my assets going up in value. I didn't track my income until later. And then now I started to track my income and expenses, though I got much lazier with that over time because my income goes up and down due to commissions and things like that. Now, this is pretty easy to build out, but if you want the exact tracker that I use to track my margin, my net worth, and my income and expenses, it is included with my masterclass. Feel free to grab it if you want. If you want to do this yourself, it's not too hard to do, but it is nice to have something that tracks your total value, your net worth, your debt, the bill that your margin costs, your interest rate, and then the dividends that you do get, as well as tracking the actual growth itself. You can see that back in 2022, I had started with just $45,000 M1 finance net worth, and then now my M1 finance net worth just at the end of October here was 447K. It 9x'd since 2022. Not too bad. And that doesn't include anything like my real estate 401k or anything like that. Hope you got some massive value here. Make sure to subscribe for more. See ya.